What's up guys, TechLab here. Now in today's video we're going to be building ourselves a new Linux gaming PC for the studio. This is our old one here, which is in an old Dell pre-built system. It works perfectly fine. We upgraded the graphics card, we upgraded the CPU, but it is starting to show its age now because quite frankly it is a little bit old. So we need something a little bit more capable, and I thought why not build something not brand new but something much newer than this, and why not make it beautiful as well. So that's what I'm going to do today. Now, for those of you that remember, this is our old Linux gaming PC that we built for the studio. It was something for us to learn Linux with, start to get gaming on it and see what kind of differences we can make. We actually upgraded this system to be able to play games. So originally it had the Intel Core i7 6700, 16 gigabytes of DDR4. There is no NVMe slots in this, so we've gone for a SATA SSD. And we upgraded the graphics card to an NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1050 Ti. And the reason for that is because it's a reasonably capable card for the rest of the hardware. Plus it didn't require any additional kind of power connections, which is really important in a case where the power supply is real trash. The system worked perfectly fine running Ubuntu and Steam games. Using Proton and things like that, actually managed to get some pretty decent gameplay out of things, but it is starting to show its age and we need something a little bit more capable. So we are going to be getting rid of this now. It's not something that we can actually salvage anything from. Maybe the GTX 1050 Ti can go into a Windows box at some point, but generally the rest of it is pretty proprietary, so we can't really use a lot of that. So we're going to ditch this one altogether. To build our new system, we are going to be butchering a few things, and the first thing that we're going to butcher is this system here. This is a budget gaming PC that we recently built on the channel. It was running Windows and it's got some pretty average hardware in here. In fact, it's got some of my favorite components from recent generations in. For the CPU, it's got an AMD Ryzen 5 3600, extremely popular with the gamers out there, and a lot of people are still using it today. It was really well priced when it was released, and it is still more than capable as well. We've got 16 gigabytes of DDR4 running in dual channel. It's very basic stuff, but it works. A very basic motherboard, and for the graphics card, we've got an 8 gigabyte AMD Radeon RX 6600. Again, one of my favorite budget graphics cards, and to be honest, I think we're pretty much going to be keeping all of that kind of stuff. The first thing we need to do though is actually tear this machine apart, and then we'll run through the parts and see what we're going to keep and what we're actually going to replace. Now that we've got everything out of the case, we can see things in a better light. All of the components are laying out here. We are going to be getting rid of a few things though. We're not going to be taking them with us. The first thing is this cooler. It is the AMD Wraith stock cooler. I can't remember exactly which one it is, but it's the one that came with the Ryzen 5 3600. It is more than capable of keeping the CPU cool, but it gets a little bit noisy. We want something a little bit more flashy because why not? Linux can also look good too. The other thing that we're going to be getting rid of course, is this case. I do absolutely love this case. I think it looks fantastic. It is the Cooler Master TD300 mesh. It's got plenty of airflow. They give you some really nice fans, but I want something that really pops. These black cases just tend to blend in, and I don't want that. I want something to really stand out. So we're going to be getting rid of that case as well. Most of the other things though, we're going to be keeping along because they are the performance parts. Firstly, we're going to have the power supply. Now the power supply is a very basic gold rated 550 watt Cooler Master. It is a fully modular one, so we can cut down on the cables, but it's a pretty decent power supply and I've had it for a while now. So we're going to keep that one in the system. More than enough to power all of the parts that we've got. We're also going to be keeping the motherboard, CPU and RAM. There's absolutely nothing wrong with them. There's the Ryzen 5 3600 sitting in the socket there. The motherboard is a very basic one. It is an MSI A320MA Pro, which means it doesn't come with any kind of NVMe slot. It's a very early Ryzen motherboard or AM4 motherboard, but it does the job, and particularly for a Linux PC it's going to be perfectly fine too. And then we're also going to be keeping the RAM sticks there, which are some very basic Corsair Vengeance LPX. LPX memory doesn't look the best in my opinion, but it doesn't have any RGB, which is going to be great for us because even though we want the system to pop, it could be a little bit awkward to get Linux to control the lighting and stuff on them. So we're going to leave that with no lighting on, and it's pretty standard and pretty capable stuff really. It will really work in any kind of motherboard and any kind of system. So we're going to go for stability over looks on that one, but overall that's what we're going to keep. The motherboard itself also comes with a separate IO shield, so of course we need to keep that along too. When it comes to storage, we are going to keep the 1 terabyte SATA SSD from Western Digital here. It is a blue one. They're not the fastest things in the world, but it will get the system up and running, and because we don't have access to an NVMe slot, of course we're going to have to go for a SATA drive anyway, but it's going to be plenty of space for loads of games, particularly under Linux, to really kind of let the system open up a little bit more. With the SSD, of course, we need a SATA cable. You can't forget your SATA cable, so that's going to have to stay. And then when it comes to the graphics card, we are going to keep the RX 6600. And the reason for that is because I think it's more than capable even still today, particularly for budget gamers. They are an absolute bargain if you can find them secondhand. You can pretty much pick them up for about £130 now. They have 8GB of VRAM, which is pretty much what they're delivering now anyway in terms of budget graphics cards. They require very little power, and this particular model from Asus here is really quiet too. So it's going to look nice in the system. We've got a back plate, we've got a nice kind of side look to it, so it's not going to look totally out of place like some of the graphics cards that we've got, but overall it's going to be a good fit. Now of course we need some other things to be able to put this system together, the new things, the things that we are going to go for. The first one is a new cooler, and for that I've salvaged an old 240mm Cooler Master all-in-one cooler. This is an RGB cooler, and you can do some really cool things with this, because if I just somehow flip it around, if you look at the pump top here, we can actually remove the cap from the side, and you can 3D print new ones of these. So I think at some point what we'll do is we'll 3D print a new, like a Linux themed one somehow. I'm not quite sure. The original plan for this system was to go for something with Steam OS, but I was waiting for the latest version of Steam OS to come out, which hasn't come out yet. Maybe we could do a nice little Steam logo on it when that comes about and we do a reinstall. But for now, we're going to leave it as the Cooler Master one, and it kind of goes well with the power supply as well. And we'll stick that on there. We will get some RGB off the actual pump on this one, but generally everything's going to work fine. 240mm is perfectly fine for the Ryzen 5 3600. It's probably a little bit overkill, and we currently have two Arctic 120mm fans on there, so there's no RGB, but they work really nice and they're quiet as well. So we're going to be installing that on the system and going to keep everything nice and cool. Another thing about this cooler is that because I've salvaged it from an older build, I don't actually have the mounting brackets for the Intel sockets. So luckily it does have the AM4 ones on there, so we kind of got away with that one. When it comes to the biggest piece that we will actually see, we wanted something to pop, and of course that is the case. And I reached out to our friends at WizMax to ask for a case that I've wanted for a very long time, and they actually said yes. They sent us along, and the case that we're going to be going for is this one here. Now this case is the WizMax Woofer one. I saw this case about 5 or 6 years ago on an Instagram post, and I just kind of fell in love with it. I thought it looks absolutely fantastic. It's a nice clean design. They come in many different colors, and they sent us along the blue one because, like I said, we were going to do like a Steam OS themed build, but without Steam OS being out, it's obviously not going to work that way. But we'll get Linux running on it anyway, and then eventually we'll upgrade and it'll look really cool. You guys will see that. But this case offers some great features that I didn't even realize when I first saw it. The first thing that I ever saw was the front panel. I just think it looks extremely clean. We've got a nice little vent here for a 140mm fan in the front. That's going to provide plenty of air into the system, and it looks like a subwoofer. That's pretty much why they called it the Woofer one, I think. On the top, we have a very typical kind of layout here. We've got all of the I/O from the power button, reset button, and LED button. So I'm hoping it does have some kind of LED adaptation in there that we can at least adjust the fans that are in there with. We've got USB 3, two USB 2s because it is a slightly older case now. We've got no USB-C, and then we've got a separate microphone and headphone jack, which is pretty cool. I like it when they separate them. I think they do look good. We've also got this little paneling on the top here for, of course, dust extraction, and enough space to put a 240mm all-in-one cooler in the top. Hopefully that's the plan, and it will fit and we can get away with it. But overall, the case looks fantastic, and it has one of my favorite features on it, not including the nice white feet that lift it greatly up. I think they've included such high feet on this because, as with subwoofers, you would put them on the floor and on your carpet. You could do that with this one, and it's got plenty of space not to suck up all the carpet up as well. It is a micro ATX case, but like I say, the coolest feature is the fact that you can just open the door like this. It's on hinges. I really like that feature when people do it, particularly for a studio machine, because we're always going inside and out of it to change things around, adapt things, and this just makes it so much easier. But I'll remove the panel and then we can take a look inside. The glass panel is nice and thick. It is tempered glass, so you're not going to break it, but overall everything looks great. The power supply is covered here. We've got enough space to put another two 120mm fans on there. The front of it, even though it does have that one big fan, actually does have the full rails, so you could get away with putting a nice 240mm all-in-one cooler in there, or some additional fans. I'm not going to suck air from too far away because you don't really have that much space apart from at the bottom. most of the air is going to come through the vents at the front. But like I say, I actually really like this case, and I'm so glad that they actually sent the blue one, because later on it's going to make a lot more sense. So a big thank you to them for sending it across. Now, of course, we need to put this system together, get Linux installed, and see what kind of games we can play, or at least make sure that it actually works. So let's put this system together, and then we'll head over to the benching desk and we'll try getting a game running and see what it does. Okay, so we got the system built, and I will be honest, it was a little bit of a tight fit, particularly the all-in-one cooler. This case isn't really designed for them to go in the top, even though there is a space for two 120mm fans. The length of the radiator itself needs to be kind of installed on the inside of the fans, and then you just can't fit a rear fan in. That's no loss to us really, but the system still looks absolutely fantastic. I was a little bit worried that the front fan, being such a large fan and it's only connected via Molex, would be a little bit loud, because usually they go full speed, but this one clearly is a very low speed fan. It's providing a lot of air into the system, but it is also really silent as well, so they did a great job of that. Unfortunately, you can't replace the front fan, or you can't replace it with a normal fan, because it is actually in a round cage, so it is a round fan. I suppose you could probably find some kind of replacements for it, but I don't think you'll need to, because it has a nice white RGB light in it, and it provides enough air, and it's nice and silent. Like I say, you won't really need to control a lot. You could also install two 120mm fans at the bottom, but we're not going to do that. I think the system looks great as it is, and it's also running reasonably quiet. We've installed a Linux Ubuntu. This is the operating system that I tend to just fall back on without having SteamOS available at the moment, so it installed perfectly fine. It's going to be using the 1TB SATA SSD that we installed in there, so we're going to have plenty of space for games. And I've also installed a game. We've also set up our metrics tooling, so we should be able to get some kind of statistics. But what we'll do is we'll start a quick game, make sure the system runs okay. Sometimes you do get a few little glitches with Linux, particularly in Steam. It likes to kind of update halfway through actually starting a game, so hopefully that doesn't happen to us. But the game that I've installed on it is Atomfall. Again, I've done this for a reason, because I'm currently playing this at home, and it gives me a good opportunity to kind of compare it properly. So let's start the game. Once we hit play, we're going to get a bit of a menu system. We're just going to skip straight past that, and we're going to get into game, make sure everything works, and then maybe we'll just see what kind of performance we get in it. As the game is loading up, I did get to have a little spot of the metrics in the corner, and it actually performs reasonably well with the Ryzen 5 3600, which is still more than capable, and the RX 6600 8GB, still reasonably capable, particularly for games like this, which is very well optimized. I will admit it runs perfectly fine on most hardware. We are currently getting around 102, 101 frames per second. That will go up and down, but so far the game is running beautifully smooth. We do seem to be getting a bit of a fluctuation on the metrics at the moment. Our FPS is running at around 106, 105, but it will jump up to around 120, 130 sometimes. It completely depends on what you're looking at. So I think really what we need to do is enable VSync to kind of get this machine nice and smooth. It is starting to warm up a little bit, so we're getting a little bit of noise from it, but we do have a reasonably low frame time here. One thing I'll do is I'll head over to the options. We'll just see what we have got configured, because I can't remember what it is. We'll go to our display. So we are running in 1080p, and I've designed this machine around specifically 1080p. This system we put together just like the last one, so that we can learn even more about Linux and start to do extra things on it. I do have some videos planned for this machine, so we're going to go into how to kind of run non-Steam games, so that's going to be interesting. Make sure you subscribe if you want to catch that stuff. But as we go down here, we've got VSync currently turned off. We've got a quality setting of custom, so I'm not sure what that is actually. It just says custom, so we're going to go to a high setting. Let's see what it gets in a high setting, and then we'll see what we need to do to kind of tune it down to get a decent kind of performance, although it's actually at the moment it's looking pretty good. We're still getting around 126, 120, drops down to 100 there. We've got some bad guys we need to run away, so I don't want to get into a bit of a fight with them, but the machine is averaging around 100 frames per second in this game, which is not too bad. There are some older graphics cards out there that will kind of hit this. Linux is a bit touch and go depending on the game, but I think you'd be reasonably happy with this kind of performance, particularly with this system. And Linux is free, so you didn't pay for your operating system either. It's really nice to know that you can actually play a 2025 game like Atomfall on a Linux-based machine with no issues at all. All we needed to do was just install it, enable the compatibility mode, and then we're running it with Proton version 9, so that is the latest version, or 9 point something is the latest version. We're running it with the latest version, so it just started straight away, absolutely no issues. But what we'll do is we'll head over back to the options, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to enable VSync at the moment. This should actually just limit this entire game down to 60 FPS, and we should get everything super smooth, which would be perfectly fine for us. So let's head back into the game now we've enabled that. As we can see, we are locked now to 60 frames per second in the corner, and the game is super smooth. We've got a reasonably decent frame time. It's a little bit higher than it was when it was unlocked, which is fine. That's okay, because it's not really affecting the gameplay at all, and everything seems to be super smooth. So there we go, our new Linux gaming PC that we've built for the studio. It looks absolutely fantastic in this blue case, the Woofer from WizMax. Definitely check them out if you want something of this design. A little bit tight on fitting the all-in-one cooler into the top, so you might want to fit it into the front. You can add an additional fan, and then the one fan that's there will actually provide the cooling for the rest of it. It is kind of configured to be able to do that. That way you can get away with putting some extra fans in the top and an extra fan in the rear if you want to. I'm going to leave it in this configuration because I really like this. Everything's going to stay nice and cool, and like I said, we're going to be using this to do more demonstrations more than gameplay, so definitely subscribe to the channel if you want to check that stuff out. And also comment down below, let me know if you're using Linux yet. Lots of people are moving over to it. It's something that I really wanted to get into, particularly for gaming, because I've liked Linux for a while, but it was never, back in the day, wasn't very good for gaming. Nowadays, it's actually starting to compete with Windows very well. But anyway, this is our new Linux system for the studio. You will definitely see it going forward. And I'm sure, as always, I'll catch you guys in the next one.